A collective sigh of relief in Hawke's Bay has greeted the government's recent national policy statement for highly productive land. The policy statement instructs councils to identify and zone land with highly productive soil and manage any development of this non-renewable resource.
It's a case that they've realised that New Zealand is a food producer, and we produce enough food for 40 million people, and the way things are going, we're going to run out of land to produce that food. So it's a great policy they've put in place.
Well, I'm really excited because we've had no real protection for the soils in the past. But how's it going to work? They're always really powerful documents, national policy statements, but also a little bit vague.
We're delighted that actually something concrete has been put down on paper to give these councils some sort of guideline to work by, which is good. It's not as watertight as we would like it. There are some loopholes. We just hope that not only this council, but councils all around New Zealand will adhere to the thrust of this document to protect our most fertile soils.
So what are some of the loopholes?
Some of the loopholes, well, one in particular is that councils can build on productive land so long as there is no unproductive land nearby. Now, there are areas in the document that actually can be interpreted in different ways. So we're just hoping that this document's got enough teeth to actually stop councils destroying our most valuable asset.
So what exactly are highly productive soils?
We've got tremendous soils in Hawke's Bay, and some of the best in the world, and you can't manufacture good soils.
Why not?
Well, you just can't. I mean, our soils have been, just developed over thousands and millions of years in swamplands, and to get what we've got now. I mean, the Twyford soils are some of the best in the world. So we've got to really preserve what we have.
Well, they're a treasure of our district. That's where the horticulture is. Our economy, our employment comes from that. It's a unique set of circumstances, the climate, the soil, the water.
Hastings has got a lot more top quality soil than almost any centre in New Zealand, but of course in addition to that we've got a beautiful climate here, not as much frost or hail or snow as they might get in Canterbury or North Otago. So Hawke's Bay is the fruit bowl of New Zealand. We've got fantastic water, and if it's not coming out of the aquifer, it's coming out of the sky. And you go to places around the world, particularly in Europe, they will see big food prices increases this year because of the massive drought and the heat wave. So a lot of their crops have really struggled in terms of the yields. So they'll feel it in Europe for sure.
For decades, Richard Gaddam has watched the loss of irreplaceable, highly productive soil to developers from his mountaintop lair overlooking the Heretaunga Plains. So he started the lobby group Save the Plains.
Having this piece of land here coming up and looking out over these beautiful plains here and seeing this urban sprawl just creeping out like a cancerous growth year by year. I would go into the council and complain about it, and they'd sort of say, yes, Mr. Gaddam, yes, yeah, yes, quite right. No, we've got to look after our fertile soils. Give me a cup of tea and a piece of cake and then show me the door. So I felt fobbed off, so I got agitated and got this little group together, which includes John Bostock, Paul Painter and Mike Donnelly. And so we've been lobbying hard for almost 4 years now to try and curb the ways of this council and, well, all three councils really, the Regional Council and the Napier Council, including the Hastings District Council, to try and stem this systematic spread of this urban sprawl over the Heretaunga Plains.
The mechanism for Hastings protecting the fertile soils has been through HPUD's, the Heretaunga Plains Urban Development Strategy. It recognises the value of the fertile soils, and encroachment on the fertile soils has been in a planned way.
And has it worked?
To some extent it's worked. There's been Challenges against HPUDs which have not been successful. So in those instances, HPUDs has protected the soils. But if you look at the map of urban growth over the last 50 years, there's been quite a lot of encroachment on the fertile soils.
Well, I know over the last 30 odd years there's been tens of thousands of hectares of prime horticultural land been developed into urban development, and then even more, over 100,000 hectares been used for lifestyle blocks.
And of course the tragedy is that Hastings is sort of centred right in the middle of the most fertile soil that we have here. And it's a tragedy, and that was really started because of the railway line. The railway line went right through the middle of originally the sort of swampy old land here. And then of course as the swamp areas were made more productive, then the houses built around the railway line, and of course Hastings has just expanded incrementally over the years to what it is today. So if you actually look at an aerial map overlaying a soil map, the Hastings actual area is a big area on these fertile soils.
Oh, I don't think there's a conflict really between housing and the soils. There is a lot of soil over Havelock North Way on both sides of it that is poor, and along the foothills there. And Napier has a lot of soil that's extremely poor. Some of it was very swampy and pretty saline and not very attractive at all. So there are places to put houses, but Hastings is a place that's not very sensible. Out at Tiawonga and Hamoana, poor soils out there. So there's a lot of opportunities down in towards Pakipaki, a lot of pumice subsoil. There's most of Hawke's Bay that you can build on. The Class 1 soils are 0.7% of the soils in New Zealand, and the Class 2 soils are about 4.5%. So it's a bit over 5% of the soils are Class 1 and 2. Those are the ones I don't want anybody to build on. New Zealand's got buckets of bad soil, and we can build on that.
The eventual effectiveness of the national policy statement will be determined in court, following the inevitable legal challenges from developers. Patrick O'Sullivan for Bay Buzz.